Hi, let's talk about abortions. Yes, I said abortions. Relax. I know a lot of people get very, very passionate when they hear the word abortion because, they're either pro-life or they're pro-choice. And while I understand the different opinions about pro-life or pro-choice, I think the conversation needs to be a little bit more nuanced than that because the fact of the matter is that it's not one or the other. There's a whole heap of shades of gray in the middle that we have to contemplate. Now, a lot of the times when we think about abortion, for the persons who think that abortion shouldn't happen, it's wrong, and because the religion that they serve says it's wrong, that's it. They don't want your no other argument, full stop, end of story. Well, obviously we disagree. But even beyond that, I think that there's a lot more to look at. For the persons who will say, well, I think that abortion can be applicable in certain situations. It depends on why the person wants an abortion. Yeah, that's another way of looking at it as well. But let us just look at the arguments, and I'll tell you my take on the arguments. The first argument I mentioned earlier is about religion and personal feelings about abortion. And the truth of the matter is that just like how you want the right and you want the ability to practice your religion the way you want to practice it, and to read the holy book that you want to read, and to worship the God that you want to worship, I think that women should be able to decide whether or not they want to carry a child. Now, just like how you want to have the freedom to do all of that without the government saying that it is legal to worship certain ways, and by the way, that is the case in certain countries around the world where if you are not they are part of the majority of the main religion, the other religion that you want to worship is just illegal. You're just not going to be able to do that. And thankfully, we live in a country where freedom of religion is a thing, and you can actually practice your religion the way you want to practice it. So it's a good thing. I don't want to restrict your practice of your religion just because we don't agree. But similarly, I don't want you to use your religion to dictate what women should do or shouldn't do with their bodies. You don't think that's fair? I think it's fair. Another one I want to take a look at is reproductive health and rights. Now, what do I mean by that? Reproductive health is a very, 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 the more I learn about it is the more I appreciate our bodies and what it can do. Going through a pregnancy is a very difficult thing, and we underestimate exactly the different changes that the body could go through whenever a woman gets pregnant. And we're not just talking about the physical changes, we're talking about the mental changes that she goes through. And you have some women who have already had their children and they don't want to have another child. And so I think she should be able to decide that. I don't think that just because she gets pregnant, she must have that child. And I don't think the law should get involved in her making that decision. And I don't think her pastor should get involved in her making that decision either. I think that having full agency over your body is necessary, not just because, well, it's the right thing to do, but it's important to your overall health. What will our conversations with our medical professionals be if we were able to completely and honestly express all of the things that we actually do go through from a reproductive standpoint and get the treatment and the help that we actually need? Do you know there are a lot of women who will never ever accept or admit that they've had an abortion, and because they didn't tell that to their doctor, it affected how their doctors was able to treat them? Now, as it relates to just overall agency, there is no law that stops a man from doing whatever he wants to do to his bodies. But if women, for example, go topless, that's breaking the law. Men can go topless anywhere in public. Male nipples are not offensive. Apparently, female nipples are. Who knew? Female nipples are downright criminal. Ha! Anyhow, the next thing that I want to talk about is the socioeconomic differences, the socioeconomic discrimination. The truth of the matter is, abortion laws don't affect wealthy women because wealthy women don't need anybody's permission if she wants to have an abortion. If she gets pregnant and she decides that she doesn't want to carry that child, Even if she decides to have the abortion in Jamaica, she has her money to spend. And she can find a doctor who will do it at a premium cost, of course. Or she can leave Jamaica and go to a country where abortions are legal and get the procedure done there, and then come back to Jamaica and continue with her life. The truth is, illegal abortions or the law against abortions really only affect poor women. Women who are already ostracized, women who are already judged, women who are already abandoned and left by themselves to deal with a consequence that she didn't create all by herself. And the person who provided the sperm, that person is usually nowhere around when she's alone contemplating what is going on with this abortion. Think about that. Another thing that I want to be very, very clear about is the fact that in countries where abortion is legal, there are less abortions happening in those countries, and actually more abortions happening in countries where abortions are illegal. Think about that. And another thing that happens is the countries that have legal abortions actually have support services. So before you actually go ahead with your abortion, you get to talk to somebody and they get to examine you and make sure that you are mentally in a right place to have an abortion. They make sure that you are physically able to survive the abortion, and they make sure that the decisions that they make don't put you in a detrimental situation over the long term. As opposed to in countries where you have illegal abortions, all the illegal abortions do is, all the law does is to send abortions underground. So if you have an illegal abortion and something went wrong, there was an issue, there's no recourse. You can't now run to the hospital and tell them that you have a problem because you had an abortion done, because you're not supposed to have an abortion done to begin with. And on top of that, now you have to implicate the doctor who went ahead and did the procedure, who's also going to face criminal consequences. Another thing that happens in countries where abortions are legal is post-abortion counseling. That's important too. Listen, there's a whole heap of hormones that courses through a woman's body whenever she becomes pregnant. And whether the pregnancy goes all the way through or it was terminated, those hormones are still present and they have very, very specific effects on the body. So that after abortion treatment comes in very, very handy. All right? Another thing that I really, really want to talk about when it comes to abortion is that there is a straight stigma and a straight just or the way we look at abortions as a culture is problematic, because what happens is that women end up suffering in silence because they have a problem that might require an abortion, which is a medical procedure, as a solution. For example, a ectopic pregnancy. Now, women have hemorrhaged. Women have come close to death, even died, because they have this pregnancy, their fallopian tube explode, they don't know what's going on with their bodies, and they lose so much blood that they eventually die. And now, it is so important for us to understand that it is in fact a medical procedure. And so your conversation should be with your doctor about what is best for you, how they can ensure that you are protected, and make sure that you come out of it at your optimum health. Now, my core belief about abortions is, if you have a problem with abortion, if you fundamentally think that it is wrong, if you have a moral issue with abortion, don't do it. Don't do it. But just because of how you feel about it, don't give you the right to dictate what every other woman does with her body. It's her body. And then when you force them to have these children and they can't take care of them, or they're not the glowing specimens of motherhood that you expect them to be, no, they are neglectful. And by the way, there are laws that can punish them for that too. Look at that. Now notice I didn't mention the scenarios of rape, incest, or even abuse for that matter, because I don't think there should be any debate about whether or not someone who was raped or abused, whether or not they should have access to an abortion if they so need it. I think that it is wicked if on top of the violation that they have already survived, the law forces them to now carry the child of their violator and raise that child. And not just that, in the United States of America, said violator, said perpetrator can actually get parental rights. So after them force the kidney by you and then dig out the little body, them can force you to have this child, and then after you have the child, now petition for parental rights. Now you have to share a child with your rapist. I think it is wicked. I think it's diabolical. And I think that it is absolutely atrocious that we even allow something like this to happen. Now, the conversation around abortion will always continue. And I think that it is very important for our legislature to really take a good look about making changes where this is concerned. I think one of the biggest problems that we're having when it comes to topics like this is a gross lack of empathy. Because so many persons already quick to run into them Bible and say what the Bible says and all of those kind of things, and completely forget the perspective of the individual whose lives you're talking about when you quote your Bible verse. And the truth is, that person should be the one to determine what the end result is. It's honestly none of your business. If you are the one who are going through this and you have for whatever reason it is why you want to pursue an abortion, there are a whole heap of services available online that you can access that I would recommend that you take a look at. But I know that in our country it is illegal to do an abortion procedure. I mean, come on. We all live in Jamaica. There are ways around everything. But I do not believe that keeping abortions legal is good for Jamaican women. Because what it does is forces us to find alternatives. Y'all know we can be creative, right? Sometimes to our own detriment. Anyway, thank you for spending some time with me. And just think about it. What would you do if you were stuck with a pregnancy you don't want? Later.